Have you ever looked at your office furniture and thought, I really need to permanently laser engrave my name into this right now? I know, it's probably just me, but still, normally that would mean dismantling the whole table. But today, we're going off-road and completely handheld to see if this ultra-portable laser, the Longer Nano Pro, can actually pull off something like this. Before we get there though, you'll get acquainted with the fun things on this desk, learn how to design 3D printed hose connectors like these in FreeCAD, and even squeeze in a few appropriate Star Trek references before our Sovol M1D gets here, maybe on the very day this video is published. This is gerGO, and welcome to gerGO Print 3D, the YouTube channel where we tackle fun projects, explore amazing devices, and sometimes have a literal blast with space age tech. Our videos always come with curated translation-ready subtitles, chapter markers, and audio tracks in multiple languages for your convenience. Before we start burning furniture, a quick shout out to Simson Mall. This is our very first collaboration. They feature laser devices from top brands at very competitive prices. They actually asked us to pick any device from their lineup, so in a sense, this was very similar to a real-world purchase decision. I chose the Longer Nano Pro because it's unlike any laser we've tested on the channel. First, it uses a galvo-style motion system, but with a 450 nanometer diode laser. This means we get the insane precision and lightning-fast speed of our fiber lasers, but because of that visible blue light range, we can use it on organic materials like wood, paper, cork, and leather. Second, the ultra-portable format. By detaching the laser unit from the base, we could potentially engrave on surfaces that are completely off-limits for our other devices. Oh, and a quick shout out to Simson Mall's shipping. It arrived incredibly fast from a local EU warehouse with zero customs issues, of course. We received the 12-watt Pro base variant. We skipped the slider and rotary accessories because, frankly, standard diode, CO2 or fiber lasers are much better tools for massive pieces or cylindrical metal tumblers and transparent glasses. We got the standard components, the motorized stand, a protective shroud with active smoke extraction, a bonus blade bed cutting insert, tools, sample materials, protective glasses, and the software on an SD card. Interestingly, the device itself doesn't actually have an SD card slot, which brings us perfectly to the laser unit. Similar to fiber lasers, it houses two rapid-moving mirrors behind a beautiful and sensitive field lens, projecting focus light to a 100 by 100 millimeter area. The power button doubles as an emergency stop, seamlessly integrated into the comfortable top handle, inviting you to easily move the lightweight device anywhere, even holding it up against vertical surfaces, as we'll see. On the front, you have two buttons for toggling the focus assist red dots and starting the job, plus a status indicator. On the back, we have the DC 12-volt 60-watt power connection and color-coded USB Type-C connectors for the exhaust fan, lift motor, optional accessories, and the computer. The well-illustrated booklet makes hardware and software setup take just a few minutes. Naturally, in true gerGO Print 3D fashion, I managed to make a mistake. I accidentally plugged the green exhaust fan plug into the yellow accessory socket. Pay attention to colors. Because of this, the unit automatically switched into accessory mode and Lightburn had trouble controlling the laser until I ran the switch carving mode macro to reset it. I tested Lightburn starting with the wired USB connection. Setup is easy using the lbdev file on the SD card. It adds the necessary macros, though unfortunately no material library. So I ran my own tests. For plywood, the sweet spot was 6,000 millimeters per minute at 80% power. For slate, 12,000 millimeters per minute at 80%. And for cork, a blazing 20,000 millimeters per minute at 50% power. Email me if you'd like a copy of my growing material library. A few quick Lightburn tips. Turn off overscanning for fill layers. It isn't necessary for galvos and only causes frustrating range alarms. Also, the internal tilt sensor is incredibly sensitive. If nudged, the laser instantly stops. You can add a reset alarm button to clear these in your Lightburn macros section so you don't get stuck. With this dialed in, I engraved the word test onto scrap plywood. Well, mostly on the wood. I didn't frame it properly, so part of it went right onto the base plate. I was also fighting with the protective shroud. The device must be powered on to drive the motorized lift high enough to remove the shroud, causing you to lose your focus height. Newer Nano versions include a removable window on the shroud to help with this, but mine does not. Framing by light was also tricky. I had to enable the option laser on when framing and set it to 5 to 10% just to see it through the dark red cover and safety glasses. Just be warned that that power, it might leave a faint mark unless you speed up the framing significantly in the move panel. Let's talk about the exhaust fan in the back. It is always on, which is great, but it simply pumps the smoke directly into your room. We actually have smoke purifiers. You can see our reviews of them in a recent video. But to attach one, I had to design and 3D print a pair of pipe reducers. I'm going to share this parametric design created in FreeCAD using the Revolve tool and a slight chamfering to make attachment easier. One of the pieces is sized perfectly for the fan on the shroud of the Nano Pro. Then, by modifying just 2 parameters, we created the second connector to link the hose to our mini smoke purifier. We've been testing TechBear filament recently, and their high-speed white PLA easily matched the speed of our lightning-fast FS on S1 Pro and produced absolutely perfect results. With the right tools and filament, this complete venting upgrade took less than half an hour, including the design time and the print. You can find links to our Acmer smoke purifier and my STLs in the description below. Now, speaking of space age tech, have you noticed how much this detached laser unit looks like a literal laser gun? We are going to test this handheld phaser mode a bit later in the video, but before we boldly go into that and cut wood, let me ask you to set your phasers to thumbs up. If you're finding these DIY fixes and FreeCAD quick tutorials helpful, make it so by hitting the subscribe button and beam us up some hypes from down below. These cost you absolutely nothing and they help our little channel live long and prosper. With the smoke issue officially solved, I went on to create a thumbs up pin for our next summer camp. If you want the backstory on these, check out our playlist on how we create these pins. I printed the final version of the plastic frame out of TechBear's olive green high-speed filament on our good old Sovol SU8, and then attempted to laser cut the wooden inlay using the Longer Nano Pro over Wi-Fi. I say attempted for a very good reason. You'll see why. But first, the Wi-Fi connection is exemplary here. Besides the usual AP mode, which replaces your internet, Longer lets you join the laser to your existing home Wi-Fi network, STA mode. I highly recommend using their phone app to set this up. An older version was in the Play Store, but you can sideload a newer APK. I've put the direct link to it in the description. I was also able to update the laser's firmware easily from this app. After putting the laser into STA mode, I changed the port in Lightburn to 8847, set the transfer mode to synchronous, and used a 256 buffer size. Using Wi-Fi spares you from tripping over cables. You can move your computer further away from the laser, which will come in handy in our ultimate project and the end, but tested brilliantly here. The 12-watt laser cut the 3mm plywood quickly in a single pass. However, when I tried inserting the wooden inlay into the 3D printed case, a major side effect of this specific laser's functionality surfaced. Unlike a regular gantry-based motion system, the laser beam here does not drop perfectly perpendicular to the material. It comes down at an angle. This has zero disadvantage when doing shallow marking or engraving, but it has a substantial effect on the edges of deep cuts. It made the bottom of my 3mm plywood piece much wider than the top. This not only made it impossible to insert into the plastic frame, but if we reduce the overall size to make it fit, we'd be left with an unwanted gap between the wood and the plastic on the top surface. This angle effect is most exaggerated near the edges of the work area, but it is present no matter where you place the item in that small workspace. To save the project, I ended up using the new TwoTrees U2 Ultrasonic cutter we recently got from Banggood. This tool is pure magic. Watch out for our detailed review on it soon, where I'll show you how incredibly practical it is for removing 3D printed plastic supports and for saving your laser projects when a cut doesn't go quite all the way through. And of course it helped here to custom fit my test bin. Big thanks to Banggood for sending us this tool just in time for this project. So straight cutting thick materials is clearly not the Nano Pro strength, but the engraved areas, perfectly covered. You cannot avoid some level of striping with gantry lasers. None of it here. That is the obvious shining advantage of the galvo system. I also briefly tested Longer's dedicated free LaserBurn software on our laptop using both USB and Wi-Fi connections. Connection to this laser is truly effortless. Just make sure you only connect one app at a time. Although LaserBurn offers extensive drawing, labeling, and even AI image generation tools, I opted to import my own graphics and vectorize them right in the app. It actually has a pretty good basic feature set for doing this, handling layers and adjusting parameters similarly to Lightburn. Though, curiously, a device-specific material library was missing here as well. Besides the zero price tag, a pre-tuned material library is usually the biggest advantage of these dedicated software compared to Lightburn. That just feels like a missed opportunity for Longer. So I just manually entered the slate settings I had found earlier doing Lightburn's material test. By the way, the material test feature is also missing in LaserBurn, or at least it's hidden so well that I completely failed to find it. And as the result will show you in a sec, I could not get framing to work correctly either. The preset preview power was not bright enough to see anything through the shroud, and I could not find any way to adjust it. So while my slate engraving turned out to be okay, LaserBurn definitely has plenty of room to improve. My absolute biggest success with the Longer Nano Pro came when marking these Cork coasters. This was another real-life task I needed to accomplish before our next summer camp. I returned to Lightburn and moved the device outside onto our porch. I completely removed the protective shroud and used the included metal L pieces to position the coasters in a reliable, repeatable location. With the increased galvo speed, the brighter preview power, and no dark shroud blocking my visibility, I was able to position the graphics perfectly this time. I even went back to my Laserland TUB4 safety glasses, which have a much higher visible light transmission rate, making framing so much easier. I've put links to this specific model in the description below. The Nano Pro engraved a 4-inch coaster in just a few minutes. Not having the shroud on meant I didn't have to constantly refocus the laser between pieces. I just had to wear my laser length goggles the whole time. I was able to complete all 12 coasters at a record pace and at a much higher engraving quality than any of our other, much more expensive lasers could produce on this particular material. It was flawless. As a final test, I just had to try handheld engraving. I came up with the crazy idea to mark the front of the desk in my office workshop. A project like this would be impossible with any other device unless I dismantle the table. Because it's wood, only diode or CO2 machines can mark it. Now the text I wanted was much bigger than the 100 by 100 work area of the Nano Pro. So I came up with a plan to engrave 2 letters at a time. I checked the engraving time estimates, and it just wasn't feasible to handhold the device perfectly still for deep field engraving. So I decided to only engrave 1.5mm outlines using the offset fill mode. With these settings, Lightburn predicted engraving times of under a minute for each letter pair. I removed the laser from the motorized stand and unplugged absolutely everything except for the power cable, utilizing the remote control via Wi-Fi. I put on my protective glasses and actually used the protective shroud this time to help me set the physical focus distance and align the unit flat against the top edge of the table. Because the machine's 0 point is normally in the front left corner, holding it this way meant I had to flip the text upside down in Lightburn. I used the framing laser to position each letter group relative to the ones I had already finished. Lightburn's time estimate turned out to be a bit off, and some of the engraving jobs took over 3 minutes, which was much longer than I anticipated. Hand holding a device against a desk for 3 straight minutes is not easy, so there is a bit of ghosting in the end result. Also, the magnets holding the shroud onto the unit aren't quite strong enough for this kind of pressure, so the alignment of some of the letters isn't absolutely perfect, but I actually ended up accomplishing something no other device could easily do. The whole process took maybe 15 minutes in total. I could easily imagine using it in a similar manner to laser mark furniture inventory with a smaller logo, or putting custom labels on drawers. I'm absolutely sure we will keep using this incredible versatility in our future projects in and around the workshop. The Longer Nano Pro is indeed a very special laser tool capable of some highly unique things. Engraving cork and wood, especially handheld, is definitely its greatest strength, while deep straight cutting is simply not a priority for this setup. The small work size could of course be a limiting factor, but it's also a massive advantage when it comes to its portability. The hardware and software setup is easy and reliable. LaserBurn, though far from perfect, offers a passable free alternative, but the industry standard Lightburn is still the way to go in my opinion. The motorized lifting and focus assist are wonderful comfort features, but I'm not happy with how inconvenient the dark light protective shroud makes them to use. I also don't like how dark the included glasses are. If safety accessories are too inconvenient to use, there is real danger of users avoiding them during regular use. Finally, the smoke extraction is only half solved out of the box, getting rid of the smoke from the work area, but just pumping it directly into your workshop. Address those quirks with a smoke purifier and some 3D printed adapters, better safety glasses, and a bit of discipline. Do that, and the Longer Nano Pro easily becomes the most portable, highest quality organic material engraver in your entire workshop. We are very happy with ours, and you can get yours from Simson Mall very quickly from their local warehouses at a highly competitive price. If you do, please use our affiliate links below to help support the channel. They also sell algo laser devices, which we have also reviewed in the past. Check out our Pixie reviews in this playlist and video where we test that mini smoke purifier here. Our Sovol M1D is almost here, so next we go print 3D. Thank you so much for watching another gerGO print 3D video all the way through. Happy making!